There have been two moments in my life when I was happiest. The first was the day I met Josh.
I'm Josh.
I'm Iris. And the second, the day I killed him.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at Companion, the new sci-fi thriller comedy film that sparked a lot of discussion and opened up to some pretty great reviews. But while most of the reviews have focused on the obvious themes of toxic masculinity and incels, I think there's something deeper going on here. Something that maybe even the filmmakers didn't realize they were saying. So let's talk about Companion as a story not just about toxic masculinity, but also about transactional relationships, entitlement across genders, social exchange theory, and how both men and women could be complicit in manipulation and exploitation. Let's get into it. So most critics, including Time magazine, have honed in on Josh, played brilliantly by Jack Quaid. And Josh is this incel-coded, self-absorbed boyfriend who literally hacks his AI companion. He jailbreaks Iris, played amazingly by Sophie Thatcher. He jailbreaks her to make her more violent and subservient. And yeah, that's a pretty clear critique of toxic masculinity. I mean, he just completely controls his girlfriend. He's manipulative, entitled, and he sees Iris. He doesn't see her as a fully realized sentient being that's capable of self-actualization. He views her as an extension of himself. A lot of the reviewers have drawn parallels between Josh and incel culture, where men feel like they're owed something that they just feel entitled to it, and they react with resentment when they don't get it. Now, just to clarify, I'm not sure that I even buy into the whole notion of incels as a concept, but the point is that concept exists, it's out there, and people are talking about it, and that is what this film appears to be critiquing, and that's the lens they seem to have made the film in. And they did a great job with it. If you buy into that concept, they made a great film about it. But what almost no one seems to be talking about, at least from the early reviews and critiques that I've seen, no one seems to be talking about that Josh isn't the only character in the film that's exploiting other people. And that's where I think things get really interesting for analysis. So let's talk about the character of Kat and her sugar daddy, Sergey. So Kat, Josh's friend, has this shady Russian sugar daddy named Sergey, who owns the property where Josh and his friends are taking a weekend trip or something like that. They're off in the mountains. And this is where things get really fascinating. While Sergey is framed as the sketchy rich guy, at first they allude that he's a gangster, but then later they say he made his money legitimately. But whatever, he's this very, very rich Russian guy, which Kat is one of his sugar babies. But later on, the film reveals that Kat lured him into this situation with Josh so that they could manipulate and rob him. And Josh is in on it. They're both in on it together. Josh and Kat use Iris as a literal weapon to take Sergey out so they could steal his money. Josh hacked Iris's programming to make her as aggressive as possible so that when Sergey inevitably tries to assault her, she will kill him. And Kat was okay with this. She was totally on board with doing this to both Iris and Sergey, and also manipulating the two other guests at their house into believing that Iris acted alone and murdered Sergey, that she had nothing to do with it. So in my view, it seems like the filmmakers clearly want us to see Josh's entitlement, but they stop short of asking whether Kat's entitlement is any different. Because, I mean, let's be real here for a second, right? Kat is just as transactional as Josh. Sergey is just a means to an end for her, just like Iris is a means to an end for Josh. It's a perfect parallel. Josh jailbroke Iris to maximize her usefulness for his needs. Kat weaponized Sergey's attraction to her to get what she wanted. The difference is that the film frames Josh as a bad guy, while Kat's actions go largely unexamined. I mean, she's not painted in a positive light, but her sense of entitlement isn't as explored as deeply as Josh's is. And I think there's a reason for that. I think some people would argue that Kat's behavior is a product of her circumstances, that she's just behaving in a way that enables her to survive in a world that often objectifies and marginalizes women. As Kat explains herself, she felt replaceable. Some, including perhaps the filmmakers, might see her actions as a pragmatic choice, simply playing the game with the limited power she has. And there's definitely some truth to that. However, even if we acknowledge the systemic pressures that contribute to Kat's choices, it's paramount to analyze the consequences of those choices. See, Kat, unlike Iris, does have agency, even when considering societal constraints. Her decision to enter a transactional relationship, while perhaps born out of some necessity, still makes her an active participant in the cycle of exploitation. The film seems to want to paint her as just another victim of objectification, but it completely sidesteps the fact that she was also an active participant in Sergey's robbery and murder. Does her participation in this dynamic ultimately challenge, or does it reinforce the very system she's supposedly navigating? This complex interplay of agency, circumstance, and consequence brings us to a key concept from social psychology, social exchange theory. SET posits that relationships are fundamentally transactional, meaning individuals weigh the costs and benefits of their interactions. It's not necessarily a conscious, calculated process, but rather a subconscious assessment of what we're getting out of a relationship versus what we're putting into it. Central to social exchange theory are the concepts of rewards and costs. Rewards are the positive things we receive in a relationship. These can be tangible, like money or gifts, or intangible, like emotional support, validation, or social status. In Companion, Josh's rewards from his relationship with Iris include control, a sense of power, and perhaps even a bizarre, twisted form of companionship and emotional support. In fact, there's even a few jokes in the film about the robots being emotional support robots. For Kat, the rewards for her relationship with Sergey are primarily financial security and a lifestyle that she feels entitled to. Sergey's rewards, on the other hand, might be some kind of perceived status from having a younger, attractive partner and just the gratification of control. Kat even there's a few lines in the film from Kat that says he basically controls all of her behaviors. Okay, so costs, conversely, are the negative aspects of a relationship. The things we give up or the negative experiences we endure by being partnered with another person. Again, these could be tangible, like time and effort, or intangible, like emotional distress, loss of freedom, or social disapproval. Josh's costs might include the social isolation that comes with his increasingly erratic behavior and the potential legal repercussions of his actions. Kat's costs could be the emotional vulnerability inherent in a transactional relationship and the potential for exploitation. Sergey's costs are primarily financial, but also include the risk of being manipulated or betrayed, a risk that ultimately materializes in the film, partly because he's a complete misogynist who didn't respect women's boundaries, but anyway. Another important concept in social exchange theory is the comparison level. This refers to what we expect to receive in a relationship based on our past experiences and societal norms. Kat's comparison level, for example, might be influenced by societal expectations of what a sugar baby should be receiving. This influences her perception of the fairness of the exchange with Sergey and might have even motivated her into robbing him or agreeing with Josh to rob him, or maybe it was her idea. Maybe it was Kat's idea and Josh was the one who got manipulated into going along with it. Regardless, if she feels she's getting less than she expects, she's more likely to be dissatisfied, even if the objective rewards are substantial. And the film even suggests that she is receiving less than she expects, which again, might be what motivated her to rob Sergey of his money. So in short, the overall outcome of a relationship, according to social exchange theory, is the result of subtracting the costs from the rewards. A positive outcome means the rewards outweigh the costs, making the relationship more likely to continue. A negative outcome means the costs outweigh the rewards, making the relationship less sustainable. And this is where the film, perhaps unintentionally, offers a complex picture. While Josh's manipulation of Iris is clearly framed as a negative outcome for her, the film also raises questions about the outcomes for Kat and Sergey. Are they truly benefiting from this exchange, or are they both, in their own ways, experiencing a negative outcome, even if they don't fully acknowledge it? Think about it. By being complicit in the murder and robbery of Sergey, Kat is revealing that, from her view, She was entitled to more of Sergey's money. Sergey, on the other hand, in his attempted assault of Iris, that Kat was complicit in staging, reveals he felt entitled to more than just his objectification of Kat. From their warped and entitled views, they were both experiencing a negative outcome. So by examining these relationships through the lens of social exchange theory, we can see how the film, perhaps unwittingly, exposes the pervasive nature of transactional dynamics, even beyond the explicitly toxic behavior of Josh. I mean, the film reveals how easily relationships can become reduced to calculations of costs and benefits, and how this transactional mindset can lead to complete exploitation and a fundamental dehumanization of others. I mean, Kat even says in the film that Sergey does not view her as a human. So, and viewing it through this lens also highlights the subjective nature of these calculations. What one person considers a reward, another person might see this as a cost. And this subjectivity further complicates the dynamics of power and manipulation within these transactional relationships. While toxic masculinity is a recognized concept, it's crucial to understand that manipulative and exploitive behaviors are not exclusive to men. Some have used the term toxic femininity to describe similar behaviors in women. However, this term is often misused and can be interpreted as essentialist. Therefore, while acknowledging the parallel, I want to emphasize that I'm focusing on the behaviors themselves, manipulation, exploitation, and transactional dynamics, regardless of who exhibits them, whether it be male, female, non-binary, something else, or Josh or Kat. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the film should have both sides, Josh and Kat, or both sides do it or anything like that. The film was well made as it was. And I'm not saying they should have made Josh any less manipulative or toxic. What I'm saying is that we can't discount that Kat was just as culpable, aka toxic, as Josh was in planning Sergey's murder to rob him of his money, which she felt just as entitled to as Josh did. And that seems to be getting lost in the other reviews that I've seen. This blind spot in the narrative says something about how we talk about gender and power dynamics. Toxic masculinity is easy to spot. It's aggressive, it's controlling, and it's entitled. But toxic femininity, the kind that thrives on manipulation, transactional relationships, and emotional exploitation, often flies under the radar. And again, that's why a lot of people, including me, have a problem with the term toxic masculinity. Because these behaviors are toxic no matter who does it, whether it's a man, woman, or non-binary. They're toxic, right? They're bad for relationships. And that's not just in companion. Media often avoids critiquing female entitlement in the same way it critiques male entitlement. We're quick to call out the nice guy syndrome in incel culture, but we're hesitant to address the flip side. The idea that some women also treat relationships as transactional, that they too can view partners as disposable when their needs aren't met. So in my view, Kat and Josh are mirrors of each other. They both see relationships as a way to get what they want. They both manipulate others to maintain control. Now, was this intentional on the part of the filmmakers? Honestly, I don't think it was. I think they were trying to make a film about toxic masculinity, and like I said, they succeeded. They made a great film. But that's what makes it even more interesting. Sometimes stories reveal truths their creators didn't consciously intend. And Companion, whether by accident or by design, ends up being not just a critique of toxic masculinity, but an unintentional expose of how power and entitlement operate across gender lines. So what do you think? Am I reading too much into this? Or did Companion accidentally expose a much bigger truth about relationships, manipulation, and entitlement? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this breakdown, don't forget to like and subscribe for more social and behavioral science deep dives into sci-fi, action, horror, and beyond.